Hello Orchid friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching my video, my channel is all about orchids. From what orchids I have, how I grow them, my thoughts on certain orchid topics, to what orchids in my collection are blooming, etc. So if you want to follow along my orchid hobby adventure, please consider subscribing to my channel and turn on the notification. Today in this video, I'm going to show you what I did with a repotting of my Phalaenopsis pulchra. This is a species orchid, and this one, I've talked about this one a couple of times in my channel. This one is one of the two orchids that have that cakeys on the flower spikes. And last time I talked about it, I was contemplating whether to repot this orchid or not, and I decided to go ahead and go with it. So let's go back in time a little bit. End of September 2019, I was really looking at this plant thinking, gosh, all these aerial roots, wow, they're really nice to look at. If I look at the base of the mother plant and some of the roots as well as the roots in the media, for some reason I had this idea or a feeling that this orchid can do better, and somehow I think this orchid may have very few roots, viable roots in the media. So I decided that, you know what, even if without a repot, I need to take it out and have a look just to make sure. Because I don't know when I will be publishing this repot video in the channel, so I do want to, I guess, give this reminder, put this reminder out there. If you're new to this orchid hobby, the best season to repot an orchid is spring, summer, and sometimes even autumn if you live closer to the tropical area, if you do still have higher temperature. Otherwise, try not to repot your orchid in winter or in colder temperature days, because sometimes your orchid do get set back because of because you repot your orchid in the wrong season. But anyway, back to this orchid. At the time, everything looked okay, except I feel the mother was losing some roots in the media, so I decided to take it out, and this is what I saw. I was right. Probably 2/3 of the roots were not viable anymore. If I squeezed most of the roots, they just became really soft, squishy. So I immediately took it under my faucet in the kitchen and just give it a quick rinse. Another reason I'm doing this is because I want to wet the aerial roots. The main reason is I want these aerial roots to be wet enough to be flexible, so when I'm trying to pot this orchid into the original container, the original cup, they're flexible enough that I can still somehow make it fit into the small container, as well as to avoid me breaking the velament or causing any kind of rip or rupture on the velament. Another reminder is because I was using the faucet, so I was able to adjust the water temperature so that it's just about lukewarm. And then now we're ready for the next step, and that is to trim the dead roots, the dead tissues off. So the scissor that I was using, before you cut anything, just remember you have to sterilize the scissor, the cutting tool. So you can use hydrogen peroxide, 3% alcohol, right, 70% alcohol, or you can take it over on to your stove range and just use fire to some flame to disinfect it, so that way you can avoid cross-contamination. And this is after the trimming. So there are still about 1/3 of roots, viable roots from within the media. Not great. So I think this repot was very timely because, oh, by the way, I still made a mistake of clipping 2 viable roots off, but thankfully, because this orchid has quite a bit of area roots, so I'm not even worried about, losing 2 roots. Now back to the container talk. The container is the original container, but this time I did punch a couple holes at the bottom because I've decided to switch from semi-hydro to traditional growing method within organic media. Do you think I was able to manage putting all the area roots into the container? Yes, I was able to. The area roots were flexible enough, thankfully, that I was able to push all of them, counterclockwise and just push them into the container. And the pebble that I use is the same, but obviously I play around with the ratio a little bit. So last time I think I might have used a little bit too much small pebbles. So this time around I'm using a 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 parts hydrocorn, so the bigger pebbles, and then 1 part manto clay, which is the smaller pebble size. So now it's pretty airy in there, and because a lot of the area roots took up some space already, so this is what it looked like after the repot had finished. I did say that because this orchid was in semi-hydro, but now it's in a container with holes at the bottom. But if I want to, at some point, I can always use a double cup method, which I will always use because, I use outer cup to block out some sunlight to avoid algae. But I can also use that cup as a outer cup to provide a little bit of water at the bottom to convert it back to semi-hydro if I want, right? And I can always go between these two growing methods depending what I see and what I want to do with this orchid. So there is that flexibility there. If I use 1/4 cup water, which that's the amount that I used to give to this orchid in the old container, the reservoir is about half full. So by the same token, if I want to at some point, go back to the semi-hydro method, all I need to do is just make sure that I provide 1/4 cup of water, and that water will sit at the bottom, but then I know within about 7 days, the water will be completely absorbed. So I think that is a good flexibility there that's available to me whenever I deem fit. And even with the repot, I decided that I want to keep the keiki on with the mother plant because I think this keiki will continue to grow better with its mother, and because I want to save space. I don't want to have another separate plant of the same kind taking up, some precious horizontal space that I have on my growing rack. Anyway, so typically after a repot, I would let the plant dry for a week or so, but this time I went ahead and soaked this orchid because what I was seeing, well, essentially the aerial roots were already looking pretty dry because my new environment, the humidity tends to be a lot lower, and it's more difficult to control and keep up with the humidity because of the central air, but also because the sunroom is just that much bigger. So I went ahead and soaked this orchid. However, because with holes at the bottom, if I take this, take away the outer cup, the water was able to drain out completely. Maybe 1% at the bottom. That was it. So the next day, it looked pretty dry as I expected. And both the mother and the keiki were showing signs of growing new roots, which I was very happy. I mean, they were growing already. It's not because of the repot, but I'm happy that they're growing. Now, at the bottom, I am using a extra stone to prop it up because I want to allow the inner and outer cup to have some space for air to float through or to promote gas exchange and because it's only the first, the next day, so I did want to make sure that this orchid have opportunity to completely dry out. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video.